What's good, everybody? Welcome to Outside the Playbook. With the NBA season right around the corner, I linked up with the eye test to do a 30-team breakdown, going division by division, making our picks for MVP, NBA Finals, and more. But before we get into that, thank you for watching, and make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell to get notified every time Outside the Playbook drops new content.
He's heating up.
All right, so we back with another episode for the season preview. We going division by division, and we're going to take a look at the Southwest Division, the Memphis Grizzlies. All right, they went 51-31, second in the West. They lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Los Angeles Lakers in 6 games, 15th in offense, second in defense, division champs. You bring in Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose. You ultimately lose Ja Morant for 25 games due to suspension. You lose Dillon Brooks to the Houston Rockets. Can the Grizzlies stay competitive until Ja Morant completes his suspension?
I want to say yes with Marcus Smart, but it ain't gonna be the same. I'll just let you in on that.
No.
I don't think they'll be terrible, but I don't think they completely lose out.
Yeah. Okay.
I still have confidence in them. I'll just say that.
Okay. You look at your backcourt is going to be Marcus Smart and Bane.
Okay.
You still got Triple J. You still got Clark. I think Clark got hurt. He might have tore his ACL. I got to double check that, but he did go down with an injury in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You
They still got
bring in
Adams?
Derrick Rose, huh?
They still have Steven Adams?
They still got Steven Adams, but I mean, again, he was out of the rotation in the playoffs.
Facts.
I mean, when you look at this roster, it is most definitely built around Ja Morant. You lose Dillon Brooks, so you replace him with Marcus Smart. So you still have the same, I don't want to say same, you still have a dog on your team that can lead from the emotional standpoint, the mental standpoint. You have locker room leadership in Steven Adams. You add Derrick Rose to that. But surviving in the Western Conference this season, okay, there's a lot of teams that are in win now mode simply because they have aging superstars and there's a sense of urgency. You look at, I mean, we're going to talk about the Pacific Division and we're going to talk about the Denver Nuggets. You know, there's a lot of teams that are in win right now mode. The Grizzlies don't have the advantage of, you know, we can do without our superstar for 25 games, have him come back, and then we'll be right back in the thick of things. I don't think that's going to work out that well for them this season.
Right.
The best thing that they can do is at least get into the play-in because everybody just wants a chance. Get into the play-in, fight your way to get the 8th seed, and then we'll see what happens from there. But for him to miss, a third of the season, they ain't going nowhere this year.
No.
Looking at the New Orleans Pelicans, all right, 42-40. They lost the play-in to the Oklahoma City Thunder, one of my favorite young teams to watch, so we'll talk about them in a little bit. 21st in offense, 6th in defense. They don't have any key additions other than the fact that Zion Williamson is hoping to be available for the team. They don't have any key losses. But one thing I will say is this. His off-the-court extracurricular activities are going to play a significant role in his mentality this upcoming season. David, Griffin, he was talking about, Zion has been in the gym endless hours the entire summer. He doesn't even think that he's left the city, left the state at all. He's just training all summer. He ain't there by choice. He's there because he has no other option, because outside those 4 walls, it's a lot of trouble for him to get into right now. With the healthy Zion, they were top 3 in the West, 25-11, I think, at one point. Is Zion one of the players satisfied with being famous over being in the NBA?
No, I don't think so. I think him as a player, I mean, obviously he's phenomenal. To me, even when I saw him talk to Gilbert Arenas
that was
and those guys and stuff like that, it was a great interview, and I believe him. Like, just in terms of some people do 18, 19, 17, 18, 19, they deal with fame and success or even potential a lot differently than a lot of other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to mention for somebody his size and things of that nature in terms with his playability and stuff like that, and the early injuries, mind you, that knee started happening like his junior year of high school.
Yeah.
So it's not something that just happened and all of a sudden he's spiraling. It's like just dealing with that again. I know they have certain classes or people you can talk to in terms of money management potentially and stuff like that, but nobody can deal with necessarily fame, because you never know who's gonna be the next famous person.
Yeah.
And for what. I think with him, I think I believe him in terms of his seriousness. Hopefully he can be a lot more in terms of injury free.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they will end up being between 5 and 3 if that ends up being so.
I think, in my eyes, he's somebody that can be the best player on a championship team when he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I think this team can be a serious threat in the playoffs. You got CJ, Ingram, Zion is your clear number one.
Yeah.
They have a very specific, pecking order on that team that works for them. I think he can be the best player on a championship team when he's healthy, but the only thing is, I would say, do they have the right coaching staff in place? That's going to be, something that they have to look at. The more years they add on, to this roster, the closer you get to that, that upper echelon in the Western Conference, you have to consider, do we have the right coaching in place to get us to the next level? That remains to be seen as well. But yeah, I think he's one of those guys that is just having a rough patch. Once he gets over the injuries, once he gets over the off-the-court issues, he'll be perfectly fine. Looking at the Houston Rockets, all right, going from one off-the-court issue to another, Houston Rockets were 22-60, 14th in the West. No playoffs, no play-in, one of the worst teams in the league, 27th in offense, 29th in defense. You hire Ime Udoka, coming off his suspension with his former team in the Boston Celtics. You have issues going on with Kevin Porter Jr. You add in Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks. You bring Jeff Green and Patty Mills. 100% different in the locker room as far as veteran presence. You have Amin Thomas. His twin brother is in Detroit. I think the remake of this team is headed in the right direction. If you find a suitor for Kevin Porter Jr. to move him, if you still, if that's the direction you want to turn into, will this change in culture be enough to entice James Harden to come back to Houston?
Entice, I think it's possible, yeah.
He was just there over the weekend partying.
Personally, do I want it to happen? No.
Really?
Yeah, I don't want it to happen. I think that these new additions are proof, and with the vets and everything like that, it's proof that they're getting more serious about not leaving these young guys hanging.
Okay.
Obviously they had, even with Kevin Porter Jr.
Kevin Porter Jr.
Even with Kevin Porter Jr. and what's the other guy?
Jalen Green.
Even with Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, I just feel like there was nobody to really guide them, and it was strictly them trying to figure things out, specifically offensively, because they're very offensive guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Jeff Green and everybody else coming in, along with Fred VanVleet, and even with the Thompson twin, again, same as we talked about in the other episode about his brother, being an all-around guy who's willing to do any and everything, offensively, defensively, rebounding, and things of that nature. I just look at these new key additions as worker bees, like really, really willing to take it to the next level in terms, and a lot of these guys are playoff and or championship tested.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helps way more than somebody who's not playoff and championship tested.
Never been there. You're not going to listen to somebody that's never been there.
Exactly.
And, speaking of, the Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, those being offense-oriented guys, there's a requirement there now that, hey, you got to play both ways on the court. Patty Mills, Jeff Green, Dylan Brooks, those are veteran guys that play basketball on both sides of the floor. Prior years, they were allowed to get away with just playing offense, being a very bad defensive team, being bad defensive players. They don't have that anymore, especially with Udoka coming over from Boston.
Right.
San Antonio Spurs, all right, 22-60. they did what they were supposed to do. Be bad enough to get the #1 draft pick. They were 15th in the West. No playoffs, no play-in, 29th in offense, 30th in defense. Bottom of the league. Worst of the worst. Victor Wembanyama. All right, he was billed as the best prospect since LeBron James. Everybody's been debating that, talking about that, but listen, the mentorship of Tim Duncan and David Robinson and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, they're making sure that he is going to have success at every turn. Any questions that he has, they're going to answer them. They're going to point him in the right direction. You have Coach Pop still sitting in that chair. So where do you see Wemby and the Spurs in the next 3 to 5 years?
I say top 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
I say 3 to 5. And the only reason why I say top 3 to 5, it all to me depends on if one, Wemby's play, but two, if Wemby's play along with Pop, but really if Wemby's play entices somebody else to come help out.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Not many stars line up to go to San Antonio. We hear about, Kevin Durant and LeBron at one point or another almost going there. Kyrie Irving at one point almost went there. If Wemby can come in and play that well, again, he's young. He's expected to be, like we've been saying, the best prospect since LeBron James. He's expected to come in and dominate right away. People have got to temper those expectations simply because he's going to have to go through an adjustment period where the physicality of the NBA game, they're going to try to push him around, bully him, put him in as many isolation situations. I mean, right out of the gate, if I'm not mistaken, right away he has to play Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic in his first NBA game. Right away, he's going to see at least 10 to 15 isolations in just the first half alone. Right. So temper those expectations, allow him to grow and mature. They'll be fine. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, they get that second guy. They get that next guy that's going to put them into the conversation of watch out for San Antonio when we get to the playoffs. Don't take them lightly. Speaking of which, the Dallas Mavericks, 38-44, 11th in the West. No playoffs, no play-in by design. They purposely missed out on the playoffs. We found that out. 6th in offense, 24th in defense. We look at the key losses. They lose JaVale McGee. They lose Reggie Bullock. But the key additions is very important. And I think for this team more than any other team. They bring in Markieff Morris, Derrick Jones Jr., Seth Curry, Grant Williams, and Rashawn Holmes. The Mavs added defense, length, versatility, shooting, and toughness. Can Luka and Kyrie coexist enough to get this team into the playoffs, possibly in the second round, interrupt some of that conference finals action?
Looking at the key additions, look, out of all the teams that we talked about, I'm going to be honest, this might be arguably one of the best groups. I don't want to say the best, but it might be one of the maybe top 3 in terms of key additions to me personally.
That's what I was thinking.
And when I think of Kyrie and Luka, the biggest thing for me, I'll just say Luka first. The biggest thing for me in terms of Luka always been the same thing. Don't wait to the last 7 or less seconds of the shot clock to give the ball to somebody just to chuck up.
Yeah.
If you get to that point of understanding the offense in terms of that, you'll still get your numbers, and the ball being moved around creates more wins.
Yeah.
If you still do that, you'll still be considered another James Harden to me personally. I love him. I love him in terms of his game and everything, but I'm just completely sold in that until I see something different. And then lastly, Kyrie. I think honestly, with Luka having that, if he makes that change, it becomes another version, a lesser version of a Bron and Kyrie, where Kyrie does what he does, Luka facilitates and still gets his same numbers, and they'll be able to move around, likewise.
Outside of Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving's he's the most efficient point guard in the league, especially for the amount of shots that he takes in the game, the opportunities he has offensively. Right. The most efficient, all right? So if I'm looking at Luka, I'm penciling in 38-8. For Kyrie, I'm going 25, 6 and 6, somewhere around there. Kyrie Irving has played with LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Okay, he knows how to take himself off of the basketball, do other things on the basketball court, cut, shoot wide open threes, and things of that nature. Can Luka adapt and evolve into that type of player? That remains to be seen, because my biggest issue with guys like that, James Harden, Luka, Trae Young, when you don't have the ball, how effective are you going to be? All right, so if Luka can figure that out, this is going to be a dangerous team, because they added a lot of defense and toughness, because Luka and Kyrie, they're going to do majority of the scoring and facilitating. You need dirty work guys. You got a Morris twin. You got Derrick Jones Jr., who we miss in South Beach dearly. You bring in Grant Williams, and athletically, you have Rashawn Holmes and Dwight Powell at that 5 position. So they're going to do, they're going to do really well. And if you get everybody on the court to be able to have a responsibility and be impactful and hit wide open jump shots, the Mavs are going to be fine.
Oh, real quick. And lastly of that, with all of that you said, they still at the end of the day have a third person in a sniper in Seth Curry.
Yeah. And you know what? Watching Seth Curry over the past couple years, he's knocking on that door of, you're no longer just a 3-point shooter.
Fact.
You're going to be trusted to put the ball in your hands, and we can expect you to get a bucket. So Dallas Mavericks are going to be dangerous this coming season. Let me know in the comments who y'all think is going to be the division champ, because it's leaning towards Dallas. But if the Memphis Grizzlies can hang on just a little bit until John Morant comes back, then we're going to have to, it might be a toss-up. But let us know in the comments. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel. That's one more for the good guys.
He's